What up, what up? Welcome on in to Inside Baylor Sports, the official daily podcast of Baylor Athletics. On today's show, we look back at the weekend in Baylor Athletics. It was the green and gold weekend, which means we had a lot of events take place here at home. Softball picked up a huge sweep. We'll discuss them and much, much more. Don't forget, you can catch Inside Baylor Sports every weekday. You can also watch the video version for free over at BaylorPlus.com and on the Baylor Athletics YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, rate, and review the pod. And follow Baylor Plus today on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It's the official content network of Baylor Athletics. Think Netflix for your Baylor Bears. Download the app on your mobile device and sign up for your free 7-day trial today at BaylorPlus.com. It's Tuesday, April 23rd. Justin Hoff alongside the Baylor Bear insider Jerry Hill. And Jerry, we weren't joking. I mean, good grief, there was a lot of events going on this weekend, keeping us busy. Social media, live, in person, all kinds of different things. But I will say the highlight of the weekend had to be Baylor Softball, a sweep over UCF. Very impressive.
Sweet sweep, yes. And it was something this team really needed, Justin. I mean, I know we've talked about them before. I mean, their RPI is still pretty high up there, but just struggling the way that they have in Big 12 play. They really needed something to kind of, boost them up there. And this is a UCF team that will probably, and I think will get in the NCAA tournament. And they have. I mean, I think they've been like 3 straight times. Their RPI was right about where Baylor's was going into this weekend. And for Baylor to get, 3 one-run wins in back-to-back shutouts on Sunday, man, what a great weekend for Glenn and this team. Kudos to Aaliyah Benford for getting the Friday win and the series finale. And for Riley Crandall, she has struggled of late. And for her to go out there and throw, I believe it was a 5-hit shutout. Man, great game from her as well. So, yeah, just a great weekend for them. Kind of, to me, if there was any doubt, there's no doubt they're going to make the NCAA tournament now. Now it's just, can you get up high enough? I mean, it may be too late to get that, host bid, but maybe not. I mean, if you finish out strong and then maybe do something at Oklahoma City, maybe you can still, get a host site. But certainly this put you in the NCAA tournament. Now it's just how high can you go?
Yeah, let's take a look at the standings right now. Oklahoma atop the Big 12 Conference at 18-3, a record 42-4 overall. Texas second place at 17-4. Oklahoma State 16-5. Those 3 teams right there, as good as anybody in America, all in one conference. Then you have Kansas in 4th place, 11-10. UCF 10-11 in 5th place, and then that's where Baylor shows up, tied for 6th right now with BYU. Of course, has the we'll play them coming up. I was going to say at the tiebreaker. That's Baylor baseball, but both Baylor and BYU at 8-13, Texas Tech 6-12, Iowa State 5-13, Houston 3-18, Baylor 25-18 on the season, a 3-game winning streak right now. 0-7 on the road, Jerry. They'll look to change that as they make that west swing out to Utah. I'm not sure what they call people from the state of Utah. It's not Michiganders. Utahns, maybe?
Utes.
Or Utes, but they will play. You're right. Utah, yeah. They'll play Utah for one, and then they'll play BYU. You had a brain fart there.
The Utes. They're going to play the Utes. That's a big weekend for them, or big week for them, playing a really good Utah team. If you remember, that's the regional where Baylor was at last year, was at Utah. Utah has struggled a little bit this year. They're probably a borderline pick to get in the NCAA tournament, but still a really good team, and playing them on the road at their place. Beautiful setting up there. So that'll be fun getting them Wednesday, and then the BYU series Thursday through Saturday. But yeah, they definitely need to get some wins this week. And if you can win that Big 12 series with BYU, like you said, and get that head to head with them, it just puts you a little bit higher up in the standings.
Yeah, that's certainly a unique piece, though, when you look at the schedule. Winless on the road. The only team in the conference yet to get a road win There's a couple of teams, BYU and Iowa State, with one road win, and part of that, Jerry, is scheduling, and who you're playing on the road. But this is obviously a big series for this team, some confidence, and especially knowing, hey, if you're not hosting come tournament time, you're going to have to win games on the road. So you might as well get it done this week.
Yeah, and I think they're very capable of winning on the road. Particularly with the confidence coming off this weekend, how well Riley and Aaliyah pitched. I would suspect that Aaliyah Benford might get pitcher of the week. So yeah, I think the confidence you got from that weekend, and hopefully they're 100% healthy and all that. I think they got some confidence going into this week. And like I said, the Wednesday game, probably not as important, but if you can win that BYU series and maybe, split for the week, I think that would be a huge week.
And if you look at the schedule overall, 7 games remaining for Baylor softball. They played 43 so far in the regular season, 7 left to go in the regular season, as Jerry said. Utah on a Wednesday, then BYU Thursday through Saturday. Utah game on Wednesdays on the Pac-12 network. The other games on Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. And then they return, does Baylor, to home to play Houston May 3rd through the 5th at Getterman Stadium for the final regular season games in Waco of the season. And then you have the Phillips 66 Big 12 Softball Championship May 8th through the 11th. So postseason play, it's coming, Jerry. I mean, just around the corner for softball, definitely coming down to the stretch run.
Yeah, I think this is big, and this is when you want to be playing your best, and certainly coming off a sweep, their first sweep in conference play this season. I mean, that kind of gives you a good boost going into these last 7 games of the regular season. And you think about it, BYU is right there with them, but Houston is last place in conference. So this is a good chance to get a lot more wins and, again, kind of build your momentum, get some confidence going into postseason play. And I know you had talked about it before. Get up there to 30 wins. If you go 5-2 the rest of the way, that gets you to 30 wins. So I think that's got to be a goal, getting to 30 wins, and then, like I said, hopefully do some damage at the Big 12 tournament as well. But yeah, you want to be playing your best, and I think they are coming off this weekend sweep of UCF.
And you'd love a little cherry on top of that icing would be finishing over 500 in Big 12 play. In order to do that, you're going to have to win out. So you'll have to win. You'll have to sweep BYU and also Houston because they're 8-13 right now, but could finish 14-13. We'll see, and keep an eye on Baylor softball. Let's stay with the Diamond Sports. Let's move over to baseball. I had a nice win on Friday. Had some rain on Saturday, so couldn't complete that game. Doubleheader, sort of, if you will, kind of finishing out game 2 on Sunday, and then play game 3 against Kansas. Kansas getting the better of the Bears in this one. They win the series 2-1, 2 games on Sunday. And so Baylor, a little bit of a setback there, but a good opportunity this week to get back at it and get some more wins.
Yeah, and if you think about it, and, I'm trying to put that silver lining on it. If you think about the last 2 weekends with BYU and then Kansas, you're 4-2 on those 2 weekends. So I think in most cases you would have taken that going in, particularly with the BYU series being on the road. But yeah, I think when you win the first one 14-5 against Kansas, I think you get a little greedy and you want to at least win the series, particularly playing at home and particularly with a team that's right there with you in the conference standings, maybe create a little separation from them. But, as it turns out, you're tied with them coming out of the weekend, and now they've got the head-to-head against you as well. But still a lot of games left to be played, 4 conference series left, and they still have some work to do. I think, they're going to have to win some games to get to the Big 12 tournament. And that's been the goal, I think, from the very beginning, is just get to Arlington, see what you can do there, but, be one of those top 10 teams. And certainly they're in position to do that. But they are going to have to win some games in these last 4 series.
Yeah, there's a lot of schedule left for the Baylor Bears. They've played 38 games so far this season. They got close to 20 left in the regular season here. And as you said, Jerry, some big games coming up. Sam Houston, the midweek game, that's tonight, 6:30 at Baylor Ballpark. If you can't make it out, you can watch it on Big 12 now on ESPN Plus. And then they head to West Virginia this weekend always a good battle up there. Love their ballpark. I know when I was working there in Morgantown, they were just putting the finishing touches on that park, but a really nice park, good scenic area there with the mountains as well. But you look over on the Big 12 side for baseball in the standings, and man, it's close. It's a lot of fun. A couple games separating kind of the top and the bottom. Oklahoma right now, not necessarily running away with it, but in good command. A 3-game advantage right now for Oklahoma, 14-4, their Big 12 record. Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Texas, they're all tied for second at 11-7. We'll play West Virginia. We'll play Oklahoma. So a couple tough series ahead there. Texas Tech, 12-9. And then you have a deadlock at 9-9. There's 4 teams here: Kansas State, Kansas, Cincinnati, and Baylor. And then UCF in 11th at 8-10. Check that, 10th place, 8-10. TCU 8-13 in 11th place, and then Houston and BYU bringing up the rear at 6-15. So as you said, Jerry, a lot of games right there. You got to be top 10, right? 10 of the 13 teams. Not all teams play baseball in the Big 12. Iowa State does not play any baseball. A little too cold up there in Ames, but yeah. So it's right there, and you're going to have to earn it. Just like the quarterback competition on yesterday's show, there's going to be no gimmies. If you get to the Big 12 tournament, you're going to have to earn it. And I'm excited, too, about the NCAA tournament in terms of the Big 12 as a whole. I think this conference has a chance to have 7+ teams make it. You know, you could make your case there's no team that's going to host, but, man, there's a lot of quality competition up and down throughout the Big 12.
Yeah, I think it's probably as much parity as I've seen in the league in baseball. Because you do usually have like maybe 1 or 2 teams, maybe sometimes even 3 teams that are in position to host, and they've kind of separated themselves. Interesting that it's Oklahoma that separated itself, because they weren't even all that great in non-conference. I think they're maybe for the year, I think they're maybe 10-10 in non-conference, but boy, they've really kind of raked in conference play. So they're a tough out. And right now, like you said, they're in position to be the number 1 seed, obviously, for the Big 12 baseball tournament. And Justin, I just wonder if the tournament committee would look at that, like particularly if they finish out strong, if they win the league by say 3 or 4 games, even with a not as good maybe overall record. If you win the Big 12 and you've done that, and maybe you've won it by 3 or 4 games, I think the tournament looks at that and says, you know what, y'all are good enough to host. So we'll see. Like you said, I think there's a lot of teams that can make it. And there's a lot of really good teams out there, but again, I think there's as much parity this year as there's ever been. I mean, TCU, who would have thought that they would be down there in 11th? At the beginning of the year, I believe they were top 10. I mean, that was supposed to be a really good team, and they've struggled at times. But again, they're sitting there. They can still make it. They can certainly still make the Big 12 tournament. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, a lot of games left to be played. Baylor still has 4 series. That means 12 conference games. So a lot can happen in those next 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, almost like putting yourself through the meat grinder on this schedule. I mean, it's fun to watch, and the parity, you kind of beat each other up, and I think this just shows. We've talked about it before. The Big 12 conference is going to be one of those conferences that has great parity, and arguably among the Power 4 could have the best parity among a lot of different sports. And when you look at the baseball side right now, Jerry, 11 of the 13 teams in the conference, their overall record is 500 or above. And so these teams are doing a great job, and we want to continue to see that, right? I don't care if you got rivals in the conference. For our fans, we want Big 12 schools, when they go out of conference, we want them to win every game, because that makes the strength of the Big 12 conference even better. And that's particularly important for football next fall, is that we win our non-conference games, everybody, right? And so looking forward to that. But yes, as Jerry said, a lot of games to be played. And you think about some of the series coming up in the Big 12 for baseball. West Virginia on the road, home against TCU, on the road at Oklahoma, and then back home against UCF to end the regular season. So a lot to be decided there for Baylor baseball. Let's head over to Baylor track and field. And of course, Mother Nature, not so kind. We know what it did to us on Saturday around the Central Texas area and throughout the state, the great state of Texas. A lot of rain. And so the track and field event, the Michael Johnson Invitational, cut short. That's disappointing. And man, weather, can wreak a havoc on track, Jerry. I know a couple years ago, it was like 90, 95 degrees, the sun, and I was burning up out there. And it was not one of those weekends this weekend.
No, it wasn't. And the forecast looked even worse. Like, I think they were almost anticipating all week, like, we may not be able to compete on Saturday at all. So the fact that they got as far or as close to the end as they did, because basically there was one heat of the men's 800 left, and then they had both the men's and women's 4x100 left, and the men's shot put. That's it. So those events were the only ones that didn't get competed. And like I said, all but one of the men's 800 heats got finished. So they got a lot more in than maybe they were thinking. And some great performances over the weekend. I believe Baylor had a total of 8 wins, including 6 on the women's side.
Yeah, both teams are right now in the top 25. Michael Ford, he's done a great job with this program. Really ignited the group, and I think you think about Alexis Brown and Ezekiel and some of the stars out there. I'm excited to see these next couple weeks for this team. They'll get of course, the opportunity for the Big 12 championships to host that and outdoors, and then you'll have the West Regionals, and then you have the national championships. So their season, of course, typically ends in June. It will end in June, and one of the final seasons for Baylor Athletics. Okay, let's move over to Baylor men's and women's tennis. Let's start with the women, Jerry. Of course, coming off the Big 12 championships, I got a win there, but unfortunately lost in the second match for them. And shout out to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, they won the title, and they remain unbeaten on the season. I mean, Oklahoma State, they got a great shot to win the national championship and bring a natty to the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah, they're really good. And I'm not saying it's out of the blue, but Oklahoma State has not been a traditional power, particularly in women's tennis. But they are really good this year. Like you said, they're undefeated, and a lot of the matches haven't even been close. As a matter of fact, I think they beat Texas in the final 4-0. So they've just kind of swept right through it. And really, like you said, I think they're a definite national championship contender. And maybe not a favorite, or maybe not the favorite, but certainly at number one, I think they have to be one of the favorites to win it all.
And for Baylor women's tennis, obviously now they have to wait for the NCAA tournament selection show coming up very soon here. And they fell, of course, in the semifinal round there, or actually to Oklahoma, number 18, 4-0. And so, for women's tennis, got a good shot to make the NCAAs, and another opportunity for this team. And I think obviously next year hosting the NCAAs is going to be a big thing. So they want to go out there, Jerry, and put their best foot forward in the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that you want to get there, Justin. That's the main thing, is you want to get there, and you want to kind of keep that string alive of, how many NCAA tournaments you've gone to. And then, when you get there, you got a chance. You're going to go on the road, maybe down the road to A&M, because they've gone there a bunch for NCAA regionals. So could be back there again. But yeah, if you can get the NCAA tournament bid and then get through to the first round, and get into maybe a second round against an A&M or somebody like that on the road. Who knows? If you get right in there, you always have a chance. That's the thing. It's decided on the court. It's not decided in the rankings. So you just want to get there and give these ladies a chance to see if they can advance.
Quarterfinals, correct myself there. Lost in the quarterfinals, as did the men over on their side. Lost in the quarterfinals to TCU 4-1. TCU went on to play in the championship match on Sunday against Texas. Texas, the number 1 seed, they took down TCU 4-0. Texas really good, as is TCU, but Texas did some work on the Horned Frogs in this one. And for men, they're very much similar to the women, right? Obviously waiting for the selection show, expected to be in the tournament. And, a situation where you try to go in there and you try to make some noise.
Yeah, and I will say, looking back at that quarterfinal matchup against TCU, like you said, they were number 3 in the nation in the rankings going in there. That was kind of the oddity of it, is they were the 3 seed in the Big 12 tournament, but they were ranked number 3, and Baylor was right there with them. They had a lot of matches into the third set. So you gave yourself a chance. You won the doubles point, and then I believe you took maybe 4 of the singles matches to 3 sets. You just couldn't pull out enough of those. But like I said, you were in position against a team that, a top 5 team in the nation. So I think that maybe gives you a little confidence coming out of that, even though certainly you wanted to make a little bit more of a run there. And I think they could have, had a chance to get past, maybe get into the championship if they gotten past TCU. But this is still a very talented team. And again, if they can just get in the NCAA tournament and have a chance, they've shown that 1 through 6, this is a very talented team, and they can win at any of those spots.
And another thing you're looking to do is get that experience, right? Every match you play in the tournament will help you for your future team. And so prolong it, get a win or 2 in the tournament, man, that would be great for both tennis programs. So looking forward to that coming in the next couple of weeks here. As for the golf teams, right now, you think about Baylor men's golf, they're the 5 seed in the Big 12 championship, second day underway in Trinity, Texas. The women's golf team, they finished out the Big 12 championships, finishing 4th. Sarah Hasagawa, the top finisher, all tournament team, got a top 10 place finish there. And Baylor women's golf held their own here. Texas, man, did a great job, and they kind of ran away with this thing. But Baylor women's golf right in the thick of it for much of the weekend.
Yeah, and I thought, just like you said, Texas was just better than everybody else. And I think with everybody else, Baylor was right there with them. Baylor had a chance to, and they had a couple of those days where I think it was the second day where the scoring golfers were 5 over on the last hole, and they were 5 over for the day, and that would have maybe put them in second place or something. So they had trouble finishing on a couple of those days. But like you mentioned, Sarah Hasagawa getting a top 10 finish, Rosie Belsham just outside of the top 10. So they had some players that had really good tournaments, and I think this is a team, again, maybe peaking at the right time and ready to get through an NCAA regional and get back to the NCAA championships again.
And then finally finishing up, didn't have an event, but want to give some shout outs and some opportunity for fans to think about what's coming up this week. We'll obviously have more time to talk about them. But A&T, Jerry, I'm heading to West Virginia later today. Back to that state again. Seems like I can't get away from them. Of course, there's a lot of times that we have to go to West Virginia. But the A&T team going for their 9th consecutive national championship this week.
And strangely, they were the number 1 seed. They were picked as the number 1 seed. They've been ranked number 1 all year. They, like you said, they're the 8-time defending national champions. And shockingly, they were the number 1 seed for this week's tournament. I think with a really good shot. Now, we'll say, I think that gap is smaller, not because Baylor has dropped down any, but other teams have come up. And I think that's because of Coach Fee and her, so much input into this sport that other teams are raising their game. So I think they'll be pushed this week, but I expect them to bring home another trophy. I'll be disappointed if they don't bring home another natty.
It's funny, Jerry. If you go undefeated, there's a great shot you'll have a number 1 seed. But yes, they'll do. And this is kind of really almost a Hollywood script too, when you think about it, because the first national championship for Baylor in acrobatics and tumbling, as you well know, was won in Fairmont, West Virginia. And that's where they'll return this week for number 9. And I think you're spot on, though, with the sport. The sport's growing. You see what gymnastics is doing. And I know over the weekend that was on ABC, and that sport's really strong, and what we see with the Olympics. But I think A&T, we know with the sport becoming NCAA here in the next couple of years, I think there's opportunity for more Power 4 programs to get involved. And iron sharpens iron. I think Baylor's best days can still be ahead of themselves, but returning home in a way to kind of do this thing full circle this week.
Yeah, and that was the other thing was I was going to say they're the number 1 seed. Guess who they get to play? They get to play the hosts. Fairmont State is the 8th seed. So that's who you get to play in the quarterfinal round. Then if you get through that, you probably get Oregon, the only other team that's won a national championship in this sport. So not an easy path, really. But, again, I expect Baylor to be there. I expect Baylor to get to the championship match, and I expect them to win. But, yeah, I think the other teams have closed that gap, teams like Quinnipiac and Gannon. I think those teams are they're getting a lot better. UMHB is now the number 5 seed for this. Congrats to them, for not only making the field, but the 5 seed. They'll play Oregon. They'll meet Oregon in that first matchup. So congratulations to the crew for getting there as well.
That'll do it for today's edition of Inside Baylor Sports, a Sport and Story production. Thanks for listening. For Jerry Hill, I'm Justin Hoff. Have a great Tuesday, and sick 'em Bears.
Sick 'em Bears.